The first indication that something was wrong came at precisely 3:47 UTC. Global satellite networks flickered, not with the usual electronic whispers of data transmission, but with a sudden, jarring silence that would have terrified any other species. Not humans, not today. Captain Aria Rodriguez sat in the hastily converted underground command center beneath the United Nations building in New York, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that looked more like an advanced gaming setup than a military control room. Around her, a diverse team of specialists from every continent worked with a synchronicity that would have been impossible just months ago. "Incoming quantum signature," announced Dr. Kwame Osai, the lead computational linguist. His dark fingers moved with surgical precision, tracing complex algorithms that seemed to breathe and shift like living organisms. "It's big, really big." The massive Zortak mothership materialized without warning, a technological marvel that defied every known principle of physics. Its hull was a nightmare of organic metallic integration, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that suggested intelligence far beyond mere mechanical engineering. Kilometers wide, it cast a shadow that swallowed entire city blocks, its presence a silent declaration of absolute superiority. Most species would have surrendered. Most would have cowered. Humanity's response was anything but submission. "Patch me through," Aria commanded, a razor-sharp smile cutting across her face. Her mixed heritage, Colombian, Korean, and Brazilian, seemed to embody the global unity that had transformed humanity in the face of this unprecedented threat. The Global Communication Network, a system that had been quietly prepared for decades, sprang to life. What looked like a simple video transmission was anything but simple. Every layer was a weapon, every pixel a potential breach point. In the control room, 18-year-old Zara Okoye, a prodigy who had been recruited directly from a Lagos Technology Academy, began the first phase of their counter-communication. Her fingers moved like a concert pianist, but instead of creating music, she was composing a technological symphony of defiance. The alien transmission attempted to scan Earth's defenses, expecting the kind of primitive response they had encountered with hundreds of other species. Instead, they received something entirely unexpected. The live-streamed video appeared on their primary communication channel. It showed a diverse group of humans, scientists, soldiers, artists, children, standing together, facing the massive ship. And in the center, Captain Rodriguez raised both her middle fingers directly at the alien scanning beam. But it wasn't just a gesture. Embedded in the transmission was a multilayered communication that was part technical challenge, part cultural provocation, and entirely human. The video was simultaneously a high-bandwidth data packet that began probing the alien communication systems, a complex encryption key that started dismantling their communication protocols, a weaponized meme that would crash their primary systems, a self-replicating virus designed to infiltrate their network, and, as a final touch of human audacity, a looping playback of Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up." Dr. Osai couldn't help but laugh. They just got rickrolled on an interstellar scale. The Zortak leadership, expecting a primitive response, found themselves confronted with a communication that was simultaneously a declaration of war, a scientific paper, a cultural exposition, and a joke. Their most sophisticated scanning and translation algorithms began to crash, overwhelmed by the sheer complexity and unpredictability of the human response. In mission control, no one celebrated. This was just the beginning. "Initiate Protocol Prometheus," Aria Rodriguez commanded, her voice calm but crackling with an energy that suggested this was far more than a military operation. This was humanity's moment to redefine its place in the cosmos. The first act of human interstellar communication was a calculated act of technological trolling that would become legendary across the galaxy. But more importantly, it was a clear message. Humanity would not be conquered. Humanity would not be cataloged. Humanity would be respected. The Global Research Network activated like a living organism, transforming every university, research facility, and tech hub into a unified front of technological warfare. What the Zortak didn't understand was that humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to transform crisis into opportunity. Dr. Marcus Chen stood at the epicenter of this technological rebellion, the Global Adaptive Response Center humming with an energy that defied traditional military logic. Surrounded by holographic displays and a team that looked more like a chaotic startup than a defense unit, he watched as the first wave of alien technological probes began to dissect Earth's defensive systems. "They're using a quantum-entangled communication matrix," muttered Dr. Elena Rodriguez, her fingers flying across multiple interfaces. "Typical hierarchical network. Beautiful, but predictable." Zara Okoye leaned in, her eyes reflecting the complex data streams. At 17, she represented a generation that had grown up expecting the unexpected. "Predictable means hackable," she said, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. The Zortak's attack was a marvel of technological sophistication. Quantum algorithms that could simultaneously exist in multiple states, adaptive communication protocols that could reconfigure themselves millisecond by millisecond, and infiltration techniques that had subjugated hundreds of civilizations. Against any other species, it would have been an insurmountable assault. But this was Earth, and humanity played by different rules. Protocol Prometheus is more than a defensive strategy, Dr. Chen explained to the International Committee watching via secure transmission. It's a complete reimagining of technological engagement. The first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A team of competitive esports players, recruited for their lightning-fast pattern recognition and unconventional problem-solving skills, discovered a critical vulnerability in the alien network. What the Zortak considered a robust defense, the gamers saw as an elaborate puzzle waiting to be solved. Omani Okik, a 22-year-old professional StarCraft player from Lagos, identified the first critical breach. Her fingers, trained to execute complex strategies in milliseconds, translated her gaming skills into a revolutionary defensive algorithm. "It's like they're playing a real-time strategy game," Imani explained, "but they don't realize we've been training for this our entire lives." The human response wasn't just about blocking the alien technology. It was about understanding it, adapting it, and then turning it into something entirely new. Each alien technological probe was not just intercepted but systematically dismantled, its components reverse-engineered in real time. Dr. Chen's team developed what they called adaptive mirroring, a technological defense that didn't just resist the alien attacks but learned from them. Every attempt to breach Earth's systems was immediately analyzed, understood, and transformed into a new layer of defense. "We're not just defending," Dr. Rodriguez explained during an emergency global broadcast. "We're evolving." The Zortak had encountered resistance before. They had overwhelming technological superiority, communication networks that spanned galaxies, and computational power that could solve millennium-long problems in microseconds. But they had never encountered a species that could innovate faster than they could attack. Zara Okoye's breakthrough came during the 36-hour mark of continuous engagement. Using principles of game theory learned from competitive esports and cutting-edge machine learning, she discovered a recursive vulnerability in the alien network's communication protocol. "It's like their entire system has a built-in feedback loop," she explained, her voice crackling with excitement. "Every time they try to adapt, they're actually making themselves more vulnerable." The global research network transformed into something unprecedented. Universities in Tokyo collaborated with coding teams in Sao Paulo. Quantum physicists in Moscow worked in real time with artificial intelligence experts in Silicon Valley. Military strategists in Nairobi synchronized with biotechnology researchers in Mumbai. Humanity wasn't just defending. They were performing a planetary-scale technological jazz improvisation, each innovation building upon the last, creating a defense that was more art than science. By the 48-hour mark, the Zortak realized they were no longer dealing with a primitive species to be conquered. They were facing an adaptive, collective intelligence that could transform their most sophisticated attack into an opportunity for growth. "We're not just fighting," Dr. Chen said, watching the complex data streams dance across the screens. "We're rewriting the rules of technological engagement." And in that moment, the galaxy began to understand that humanity was something entirely different. The Zortak had perfected psychological warfare across 1,000 conquered civilizations. Their mimetic weapons were legendary, computational algorithms designed to target the deepest psychological vulnerabilities of any species, breaking collective will with surgical precision. They had reduced entire planetary populations to submissive, easily controlled societies with a single transmission. But they had never encountered humans. Dr. Aria Nakamura, lead Synop psychological strategist, watched the alien transmission's initial approach with a predator's intensity. Around her, a war room that defied traditional military logic hummed with an energy that was part scientific laboratory, part global cultural exchange. "Incoming psychological vector," announced Dr. Rafael Santos, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "Threat level: absolute." The Zortak's psychological weapon materialized as a complex transmission designed to induce species-wide despair. It was a sophisticated attack that had systematically destroyed civilizations across multiple star systems. The algorithm was a nightmare of computational psychology, targeting neurological pain centers, exploiting evolutionary fear responses, and systematically dismantling hope. Most species would have collapsed within moments. Humanity crowdsourced a response. "We're not going to block it," Dr. Nakamura announced to the global team. "We're going to transform it." Within minutes, a global network of psychologists, artists, meme creators, comedians, and neural network specialists began to dissect the alien transmission. What the Zortak intended as a weapon of mass psychological destruction became something entirely unexpected. Zara Okoye, the young prodigy who had already proven crucial in the technological defense, discovered the transmission's core algorithm. Instead of fighting it directly, she began to modify its fundamental structure. "It's like a really complex piece of malware," she explained, her fingers moving with impossible speed across multiple interfaces. "But we're going to turn it into something else." The global response was instantaneous and utterly bewildering to the Zortak. As the psychological weapon began to transmit, internet platforms worldwide transformed it into a global phenomenon. Meme creators began generating content that simultaneously acknowledged the transmission's destructive potential while completely neutralizing its impact. On TikTok, dancers created choreography that mimicked the transmission's neural patterns. YouTube creators developed comedy sketches that broke down the psychological weapon structure. Twitch streamers turned the alien attack into a real-time gaming challenge. A viral dance challenge emerged, with millions of humans performing synchronized movements that perfectly matched the transmission's neurological frequency. Each dance move was, in reality, a complex psychological countermeasure. Dr. Santos couldn't help but laugh. They're literally dancing against an alien psychological weapon. The Zortak leadership watched in growing horror. Their most sophisticated psychological weapon, designed to induce species-wide despair, was being transformed into a global celebration of human resilience, creativity, and absolute refusal to be broken. Social media platforms became battlegrounds of psychological resistance. Each meme, each video, each piece of user-generated content was simultaneously a psychological defense mechanism, a cultural statement, a technological counterattack, a moment of collective human joy. Therapists and neuroscientists worked alongside internet culture experts, creating a multi-layered defense that was as much art as it was science. They didn't just resist the psychological weapon. They repurposed it, studied it, and transformed it. Humans don't just survive psychological attacks, Dr. Nakamura explained during an emergency global broadcast. We metabolize them. We turn trauma into creativity, fear into humor, destruction into connection. The Zortak had studied humanity's historical conflicts, psychological profiles, and cultural interactions. They believed they understood human psychology. They were catastrophically wrong. What they discovered was a species that didn't just resist psychological warfare, they enjoyed it. A species that could turn a weapon of mass psychological destruction into a global party. A species that responded to an attempt to break their spirit by creating art, humor, and connection. By the transmission's projected end time, instead of a broken civilization, the Zortak found millions of humans sharing memes, dancing, creating art, and fundamentally refusing to be anything other than themselves. The psychological weapon had not just failed. It had been completely, utterly, and hilariously defeated. And somewhere in the vast communication networks of the galaxy, the first whispers began. Humans were not like any other species. Humans were something else entirely. The breakthrough came during what would later be remembered as the most intense 72 hours in human history. What the Zortak perceived as a simple technological engagement was actually the crucible of humanity's greatest evolutionary leap. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's quantum computing lab had transformed from a cutting-edge research facility into the nerve center of humanity's most audacious technological gambit. Surrounding her were the most brilliant minds from every corner of the globe, a team that looked more like a United Nations of technology than a traditional research group. "We're not just defending," Dr. Rodriguez announced to the global network. "We're transcending." The alien technology fragments recovered from previous interceptions became more than just objects of study. They were keys to unlocking humanity's potential. Each piece of Zortak technology was systematically dismantled, understood, and then reimagined through a distinctly human lens. Zara Okoye, now working directly with Dr. Rodriguez, discovered the first critical breakthrough. The alien quantum communication matrix, which the Zortak believed was their most secure technology, had a fundamental flaw that no other species had ever noticed. "It's beautiful," Zara muttered, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "They've created a perfect hierarchical system, which means it's perfectly vulnerable." The global research network operated with a synchronicity that defied traditional scientific collaboration. Universities in Tokyo synchronized with research centers in Sao Paulo. Quantum physicists in Moscow worked in real time with artificial intelligence experts in Silicon Valley. Neural network specialists in Nairobi collaborated with quantum encryption teams in Mumbai. What emerged was not just a defensive system, but an entirely new form of distributed intelligence. Dr. Marcus Chen, leading the adaptive systems team, described it as a living network that thinks faster than thought itself. Traditional computing became obsolete. This was something else entirely, a collective intelligence that could predict, adapt, and evolve faster than any known technological system. The 72-hour coding marathon became legendary. Programmers worked in continuous relays, each team picking up where the last left off. Energy drinks, neural sync stimulants, and an almost religious dedication fueled their efforts. Social media platforms became real-time collaborative coding environments. Crowdsourced problem-solving reached levels never before imagined. "We're not just writing code," one programmer live-streamed to millions of viewers. "We're giving birth to a new form of intelligence." The Zortak's technological probes, designed to infiltrate and destroy, became the very tools of humanity's technological transformation. Each attempt to breach human systems was immediately analyzed, understood, and transformed into a new layer of adaptive intelligence. Dr. Rodriguez discovered something extraordinary. The distributed network they were creating wasn't just a defensive system. It was learning, evolving, thinking in ways that defied traditional computational models. "It's not artificial intelligence," she explained during a global broadcast. "It's collaborative intelligence. Every human becomes a processor, every interaction a potential breakthrough." The system they created could predict technological threats before they emerge, adapt communication protocols in real time, create recursive defense mechanisms that grew more complex with each interaction, integrate human creativity as a fundamental computational resource. Zara Okoye's breakthrough came at the 68-hour mark. Using principles of game theory, neural network dynamics, and pure human intuition. She discovered a way to make the network not just responsive, but anticipatory. "We're not building a computer," she told the global audience. "We're creating a living technological organism." The Zortak's most sophisticated scanning systems began to fail. What they encountered was not a traditional technological defense, but a living, breathing network of human intelligence that could think, adapt, and evolve faster than any known computational system. By the 72-hour mark, humanity had transformed an alien technological invasion into the most significant technological leap in the species' history. What the Zortak intended as a method of subjugation became the catalyst for humanity's next evolutionary step. Dr. Rodriguez looked at the final lines of code, a subtle smile crossing her face. "Welcome to the next phase of human existence," she whispered. In the vast communication networks of the galaxy, something fundamental had changed. Humanity was no longer just another species to be cataloged or conquered. They were something else entirely, a technological force that rewrote the very rules of existence. Ambassador Sarah Nakamura understood that first contact was never about technology. It was about communication. True, profound communication that transcended mere language. The United Nations Sinological Engagement Center was a marvel of architectural and technological integration. Designed to be both a diplomatic hub and a cultural showcase, its walls were living displays that could shift between historical archives, real-time global data streams, and intricate artistic representations of human culture. When the first official Zortak diplomatic transmission arrived, it came laden with expectations of a typical bureaucratic exchange. They had communication protocols that had subdued hundreds of civilizations, sophisticated translation matrices that could decode any known linguistic system. They were catastrophically unprepared for humanity's response. Ambassador Nakamura's transmission was a masterpiece of multilayered communication. It wasn't just a message, it was a comprehensive cultural exposition that simultaneously challenged, informed, and subtly threatened. The core transmission contained quantum encrypted communication protocols, a comprehensive cultural archive spanning human history, mathematical proofs that demonstrated human cognitive capabilities, musical compositions that encoded complex emotional and mathematical structures, linguistic patterns that shifted between scientific precision and artistic interpretation, mimetic content that could be simultaneously understood and misunderstood. Dr. Kwame Osoi, the lead computational linguist, had spent months preparing this transmission. "We're not just sending a message," he explained to his team. "We're sending an entire civilization's worth of context." The Zortak leadership found themselves confronted with a communication that defied their most sophisticated analysis tools. Each layer of the transmission was a puzzle, a challenge, an invitation to understand humanity in all its complexity. A section dedicated to human art included Renaissance paintings that demonstrated complex mathematical perspectives, jazz compositions that represented improvisation as a fundamental approach to problem-solving, street art that encoded social commentary, indigenous storytelling traditions that preserved complex ecological knowledge, digital art that challenged the very concept of creativity. The scientific sections were equally complex. Mathematical proofs were interwoven with philosophical arguments. Technological descriptions were accompanied by ethical considerations. Each piece of technical information was contextualized by its human impact. "We're showing them that for humans, knowledge is never just information," Dr. Osei explained. "It's a living, breathing thing." Zara Okoi contributed a breakthrough that would become legendary. She discovered a way to encode multiple layers of meaning into the transmission, each layer readable only through different cognitive approaches. A mathematician would see one message. An artist would see another. A musician would perceive something entirely different. The Zortak's translation algorithms began to crash, overwhelmed by the sheer complexity of human communication. Their linguistic experts had cataloged thousands of galactic languages. They understood communication as a linear, hierarchical process. Humanity presented a holographic, multidimensional approach that defied their most sophisticated analysis. A section on human conflict resolution included detailed studies of peaceful negotiations, analysis of conflict transformation, examples of how diverse human cultures found common ground, mathematical models of cooperation, artistic representations of reconciliation. The transmission was a challenge and an invitation. It said, without words, we are not just another species to be categorized. We are a complex, living system of communication and potential. Ambassador Nakamura's final message was both a welcome and a warning. We do not seek conflict. We do not fear it. We transform it. In the vast communication networks of the galaxy, something fundamental shifted. The Zortak realized they were not dealing with a species to be conquered or categorized. They were encountering a civilization that could turn any interaction into an opportunity for mutual understanding or total resistance. Humanity had just redefined the very concept of first contact, and they were just getting started. The captured Zortak command module arrived at the Global Innovation Center like a fallen god. Lieutenant Jack Martinez watched as the most brilliant minds humanity could assemble began their most audacious technological dissection. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of a holographic workspace that looked more like a cathedral of innovation than a traditional research facility. Surrounding her, a team that represented the most diverse collection of human intellect ever assembled. Engineers from Lagos, quantum physicists from Moscow, material scientists from Sao Paulo, computer architects from Seoul. This isn't just reverse engineering, she announced to the global network. This is technological transformation. Within 24 hours, the first breakthrough emerged. What the Zortak considered an impenetrable command module became a roadmap to humanity's most significant technological leap. Each component was not just analyzed but reimagined through a distinctly human lens of creativity and innovation. The propulsion system, a marvel of quantum dimensional engineering, became the key to solving multiple global challenges. Dr. Aidan Thompson from the Renewable Energy Division discovered that the alien technology's energy matrix could be adapted to solve Earth's most pressing environmental challenges. We're not just copying their technology, Thompson explained during a global broadcast. We're improving it, humanizing it. The innovations came rapidly and from unexpected directions. Energy production. The alien propulsion system's quantum energy matrix was adapted to create clean, virtually unlimited energy sources. Cities began transitioning to power systems that could generate more energy than they consumed, solving centuries of environmental challenges in months. Medical technology. Dr. Sophia Chen's team discovered that the Zortak's biomechanical communication networks could be adapted to create revolutionary medical diagnostic tools. Diseases that had been considered untreatable became manageable, with diagnostic systems that could predict health challenges before they manifested. Environmental restoration. The captured technology's molecular manipulation capabilities allowed for unprecedented environmental restoration. Desertification could be reversed. Damaged ecosystems could be rebuilt with precision previously impossible. Zara Okoye, now leading a special innovation task force, discovered something extraordinary. The alien technology wasn't just advanced, it was fundamentally different. Where Zortak technology was hierarchical and rigid, human adaptation made it fluid, dynamic, and responsive. They build systems, Zora explained to her global team. We create living technologies. The global research network operated with an intensity that defied traditional scientific collaboration. Universities, research centers, and independent innovators worked in a continuous, crowdsourced innovation relay. Social media platforms became real-time collaborative research environments. Lieutenant Martinez's Special Operations Team, which had captured the Zortak command module, became celebrities of a new kind. They weren't just military personnel, they were human potential personified. Every piece of technology is a story waiting to be rewritten. Martins would later say in a viral interview that would be studied across multiple disciplines. The innovations weren't just technological. They were philosophical. Humanity was demonstrating that technology was not about possession, but about potential. Each captured alien artifact became an opportunity for growth, for solving global challenges, for reimagining human capabilities. Global challenges that had seemed insurmountable began to dissolve. Climate change mitigation technologies emerged. Sustainable energy became a reality. Medical diagnostics reached unprecedented levels of precision. Environmental restoration became possible on massive scales. Dr. Rodriguez discovered something that would change everything. The alien technology, when adapted through human creativity, wasn't just advanced. It was alive. Each system they developed could learn, adapt, grow. We're not just creating technology, she told the global audience. We're creating a new form of collaborative intelligence. The Zortak had intended to subjugate. Instead, they had provided humanity with the keys to its next evolutionary leap. By the 48-hour mark, it was clear. This was more than a technological breakthrough. This was a fundamental reimagining of human potential. In the vast communication networks of the galaxy, a new understanding began to emerge. Humanity was not just another species to be categorized or conquered. Humanity was a force of transformation. The communication networks of the galactic civilization trembled with a revelation that would rewrite every known understanding of interstellar species. The Zortak Confederation's official transmission began as a standard diplomatic communique, but quickly devolved into something unprecedented. For the first time in their 1,000-year history of galactic dominance, they were not reporting a conquest. They were issuing a warning about a species that could not be conquered. Ambassador Corell of the Zortak High Council spoke with a combination of scientific precision and barely concealed trepidation. His holographic transmission was simultaneously broadcast across multiple galactic communication networks, a move that suggested the gravity of the situation. Attention all recognized galactic civilizations. The transmission began. Humanity is not to be underestimated. They are not to be categorized. They are to be understood. The broadcast detailed humanity's response to the invasion attempt, not as a military report, but as a comprehensive analysis that bordered on academic study. It included detailed breakdowns of human technological adaptations, psychological profiles that defied traditional xenological understanding, documentation of humanity's rapid technological evolution, analysis of their unique collective intelligence, warnings about their unprecedented adaptive capabilities. Other galactic species listened with a mixture of horror and fascination. The Vornax Diplomatic Corps, who had watched the Zortak's attempted invasion with their characteristic detached analysis, were the first to officially request cultural exchange protocols with Earth. Their transmission arrived within hours of the Zortak's warning, a move that suggested both scientific curiosity and strategic positioning. Dr. Sarah Nakamura, now the primary human representative to extraterrestrial civilizations, approached the emerging situation with a combination of diplomatic precision and barely contained excitement. "We do not seek conflict," she transmitted to the gathering galactic networks, "but we will not shy away from it." The global human response was quintessentially human. Instead of military posturing, they responded with an unprecedented offer of collaborative research, technological exchange, and mutual understanding. Zara Okoye, now a leading figure in extraterrestrial communication, developed a revolutionary communication protocol that could bridge multiple alien linguistic and computational systems. It wasn't just a translation matrix. It was a living communication ecosystem that could adapt in real time. The Crystalline Confederacy, a notoriously isolationist species known for their advanced quantum communication technologies, were the first to request a comprehensive cultural and technological exchange. They were followed quickly by the Nexus Collaborative, a networked intelligence that had previously considered biological species as fundamentally limited. What fascinated the galactic civilizations was not just humanity's technological capabilities, but their approach to those capabilities. Where other species saw technology as a tool of control, humans saw it as a means of growth, of solving challenges, of expanding potential. Lieutenant Jack Martinez found himself at the center of an unexpected diplomatic storm. The special operations team that had captured the Zortak command module became unexpected ambassadors of human potential. Their story of creativity, adaptability, and unexpected innovation spread across galactic communication networks. The technological innovations humanity had developed from the alien artifacts began to circulate. Energy solutions that could transform struggling planetary ecosystems, medical technologies that could address previously untreatable conditions, communication systems that redefined the concept of collective intelligence. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's team published a comprehensive analysis of their technological adaptations, not as a display of superiority, but as an invitation to collaborative research. It was a document that was part scientific paper, part philosophical treatise, part open invitation. The Zortak's attempt to categorize humanity had failed spectacularly. Instead of a simple species to be conquered, they had encountered a civilization that could transform any challenge into an opportunity for growth. Galactic communication networks began to shift. The conversations were no longer about humanity as a potential threat or a species to be studied. They were about humanity as a potential partner, a source of unexpected innovation, a civilization that defied simple categorization. Ambassador Corell's final transmission captured the emerging galactic consensus. Humanity is not like other species. Humanity is something else entirely. In the vast, cold expanses of space, something fundamental had changed. A new player had emerged on the galactic stage. Unpredictable, uncontrollable, and utterly fascinating. The first Galactic Collaborative Summit was nothing like anyone expected. Held on neutral ground, a specially constructed orbital platform that was part research facility, part cultural exchange center, it represented humanity's first official engagement with multiple extraterrestrial civilizations. What was supposed to be a formal diplomatic event became something entirely different. Dr. Sarah Nakamura stood at the center of a holographic amphitheater that represented species from across known space. Behind her, a diverse team of humans, scientists, artists, military strategists, philosophers, reflected the complexity of human potential. The Zortak delegation arrived first, their massive biomechanical forms a stark contrast to the human representatives. Where they expected deference, they found something else entirely. Zara Okoye, now the lead Sino-communication specialist, had developed a communication protocol that was part language, part performance art, part technological marvel. Each transmission was a living, breathing entity that could adapt in real time, shifting meaning and context with a fluidity that defied traditional diplomatic communication. "We are not here to be understood," Dr. Nakamura began, her voice translated across multiple linguistic and cognitive spectrums. "We are here to understand, and to be understood." The summit quickly transformed from a traditional diplomatic meeting into something unprecedented. Each species brought their most advanced technologies, their most profound cultural artifacts. Humanity's contribution was not a single artifact, but a living, collaborative demonstration of human potential. Lieutenant Jack Martinez unveiled the first collaborative project, a technological ecosystem developed from the captured Zortak command module. It wasn't just a piece of technology. It was a living system that could adapt, grow, and solve complex planetary challenges. The Crystalline Confederacy, known for their near-impossible quantum communication technologies, found themselves fascinated. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's team had not just studied their technology. They had reimagined it. The collaborative communication matrix they presented could potentially solve communication challenges that had existed for millennia. Different alien species watched in growing amazement as humans demonstrated an approach to knowledge that was fundamentally different from any they had encountered. The Vornax saw potential for unprecedented strategic collaboration. The Nexus Collaborative recognized a new form of collective intelligence. The Crystalline Confederacy discovered new approaches to quantum communication. The Zortak confronted the total failure of their initial invasion strategy. What made humanity unique was not just their technological capabilities, but their approach to those capabilities. Where other species saw technology as a tool of control, humans saw it as a means of growth, of solving challenges, of expanding potential. A representative from the Nexus Collaborative, a networked intelligence that had previously considered biological species as fundamentally limited, approached the human delegation. "You do not seek to conquer," they communicated. "You seek to collaborate." Dr. Nakamura smiled. "We seek to grow." The cultural exchange that followed was unprecedented. Humanity shared artistic innovations that challenged conceptual understanding, technological solutions to planetary challenges, philosophical approaches that redefined collective intelligence, adaptive communication protocols, strategies for ecological restoration. In return, they received knowledge from civilizations that had existed for millennia. But true to human nature, they didn't just receive, they transformed. Zera Okoye's communication matrix became the foundation for a new form of interstellar dialogue. It wasn't just a translation tool, it was a living, adaptive communication ecosystem that could bridge fundamental differences in perception and understanding. The summit's final moment came unexpectedly. Instead of formal declarations, the human delegation proposed something radical. A collaborative research initiative that would bring together the most innovative minds from across known space to address the universe's most challenging problems. "We are not conquerors," Dr. Nakamura said in her closing statement. "We are explorers. We are innovators. We are possibility incarnate." The galactic communication networks buzzed with a new understanding. Humanity was not just another species to be categorized or understood. Humanity was a force of transformation. As the first joint research teams assembled, as the first collaborative technologies began to take shape, something fundamental had changed in the cosmos. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same.